What's up everybody, Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So we start the week off with some very good news here. First is a story from Motor Authority that's reporting some very good news about the Supra. So just 2 weeks ago, myself and many of you were very upset about the idea and the rumors and what we were hearing about the new Supra being automatic transmission only and having just a lame 4-cylinder and a turbo 6-cylinder. It made just over 300 horsepower, and those are the only two motors for this, and it'll just be a hardtop version of the new BMW Z4 essentially. This report seems to kind of suggest otherwise, and so part of that good news is the reintroduction of the idea that we may actually get a manual here with the new Supra. So there's a Toyota insider that spoke with a forum member of the forum I Hate Mud, and I guess they were talking about Land Cruiser stuff, and apparently this guy claims to have knowledge about all of the North American Toyota plans as well. And so he was like, no, like it's not going to be any of that stuff. He says to expect a manual transmission option, and he says it's not getting the BMW inline turbo 6-cylinder. Instead, it'll have a 3.5-liter turbo V6 that's co-developed with BMW still, but it also is obviously co-developed with Toyota. And he says we'll have north of 400 horsepower. So that's just what one insider is claiming. I mean, the previous info we had about the auto-only stuff, was coming from a leaked like source code thing that was describing both the Z4 and the Supra, and seemed to make sense considering the two cars were co-developed. Often they share engines, much like they do with the Toyota 86, the BRZ, all those types of things. But he's saying it's going to kind of have more unique stuff to it here and have over 400 horsepower, which sounds very promising. Sounds more like the Supra that I think we all are hoping for. And so it sounds like there is still hope yet that we will be seeing something like that. We could see a coupe or concept or production version of the new Supra coupe here by the end of this year, the Tokyo Motor Show. It seems likely this fall, but it could be sometime later on, next year as well. But anyway, just good to hear we still have some hope here for a manual higher horsepower Supra. Talking about high horsepower stuff though, a very interesting car was announced and kind of revealed this week. It's by Ariel, the people that do the Ariel Atom. They're calling it the Hipercar, and with an interesting spelling there. But they're saying basically this is their next car they're doing. It's going to be all electric, and it looks very interesting too. I think it looks like a future Batmobile or something with the way that front end looks, and you got those fins and stuff in the back. It looks comic book like. It's pretty awesome though. Anyway, it's gonna have 1,180 horsepower in its all-wheel drive configuration. So basically it's just 4 small motors at each wheel, and so it does a total of 1,180 horsepower, 1,330 pound-feet of torque as well for this thing. So they're claiming a 0 to 60 time of 2.4 seconds. And 160 mile per hour top speed. So lower on the top speed there, but man, that acceleration is going to be nuts. They're also going to have a 2-wheel drive version, and since that's using 2 less motors there, it's only going to have 590 horsepower and 665 pound-feet of torque. They didn't officially announce how much this thing's going to weigh, but the rumors are around 3,500 pounds, and even with 590 horsepower, 3,500 pounds is going to put it right up there with the Camaro ZL1 and stuff as far as horsepower per pound kind of deal. So it should be pretty awesome even with just that, but then add those electric motors to the front wheels and you have something that'll be world beating. And so anyway, there's going to be a couple different battery options and stuff. There's also going to be a 35 kilowatt gasoline micro turbine engine that's going to be a range extender. So it's not going to be purely electric, I guess. It's going to be kind of, it will have a little onboard motor to, recharge those batteries. But it sounds pretty wild. And anyway, they're going to be showing a prototype chassis of this at the Low Carbon Vehicle Show in Millbrook, England. And then the car is going to actually be arriving in 2019 and will go on sale in 2020. So they haven't announced the pricing, but they said it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be more expensive than their other cars. But they're saying that compared to the $1 million hypercars it's competing against, they said this will be a bargain. So I don't doubt them. That sounds pretty amazing, and so awesome to see that. A couple of cars here that were revealed ahead of the Frankfurt Motor Show next month. The first is Ferrari has unveiled their brand new model called the Portofino. And it's basically the California replacement, and it's still a retractable, folding hardtop, Grand Tour type of vehicle. It does a 3.9 liter twin turbo V8 that has 591 horsepower, 560 pound-feet of torque, rear-wheel drive, 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Basically the same kind of components you see in the 488 is what you're getting here. 39 more horsepower and 3 more pound-feet of torque than the California T that it's replacing. And they say it's thanks to a remapped ECU. It's got new pistons, connecting rods, intake and exhaust, and that's how it gets that extra horsepower. They say it'll do 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds, top speed of 199. Couldn't get that last one for 200. And the other interesting changes here, it has the electric power steering now, much like the A12 Superfast. But yeah, it just looks really good. I love the way this thing looks. It's longer, lower, wider, and lighter, although they didn't say how much lighter than the California T, but it is lighter, they say, which is always good. On the inside there, you have basically the same interior as the GTC4 Lusso, which is a good thing. All the greatest parts of a Ferrari interior, plus that nice large 10-inch touchscreen that you get there in the GTC4 Lusso. And so overall, a really nice package there. Like I said, I just really love the looks of it, and so very cool to see that. Also, in other Italian car maker news here, Maserati has unveiled the 2018 Ghibli GranLusso, and so it's just basically a light refresh on the Ghibli. We only have 4 pictures of it here just to show the lightly changed front and rear ends. The interior got an overhaul, I guess, this past year for 2017, so nothing new there on the inside, but it does get adaptive full LED headlights now that have glare-free matrix high beams, they're saying, and also it's going to have some advanced driver assistance systems to allow Maserati to enter the world of autonomous driving. They didn't say what systems they were doing. They're going to be revealing this car officially tomorrow at a Chinese motor show, so we don't have any of the details just yet, but as far as cosmetically, very mild changes, but good to see they're working on that nonetheless. One thing that is really big news and all new here is the 2018 BMW M5 was finally revealed ahead of the Frankfurt Motor Show debut, and it looks good. It's basically just the same M formula they always use with the slightly more aggressive front and rear bumpers. You have the signature side vents there as well, and looks good. It's certainly not going to offend anybody as far as being too bold, but it's I think it does look very good and does look very performance oriented. Inside on the interior, it's similar type of M enhancements, nothing wildly different than a standard 5 Series, but that's to be expected. It has some very cool new seats. They're heated and power, and they have an illuminated M5 badge apparently as well, and so that's an interesting addition and spruces it up a little bit. Also, you can see there's a unique M shifter there that looks pretty cool. There's red M buttons on the steering wheel there, so that you can pre-program your own settings there for those and can hit those at the push of a button and have it ready to go. There's, obviously the steering wheel is more aggressive looking there, and it's got bigger paddles. The digital gauges are a little sportier looking here on the M5 as well. And overall, I think it's actually very nice all around. Unfortunately, though, there is no manual transmission for this generation whatsoever. It was available here for the previous Gen M5 here in the States, but we are not getting a manual for this generation and probably never again. But again, this is a luxury commuter vehicle, so it's nothing you would expect to really find a manual in anymore, as unfortunate as that is. Anyway, as far as the motor, it's the same size and type of motor as before. It's a 4.4 liter twin turbo V8 like the last one. This time it has 600 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque, which is 40 more horsepower than a standard M5 and 53 more pound-feet of torque than the last generation. And they say that peak power band lasts longer as well, and that's what you're going to feel when you're driving this. And so they're saying 0 to 60, 3.2 seconds, top speed of 189 miles an hour. It's going to be running all that power through the 8-speed automatic transmission, and then it's going to have the all-wheel drive system that we've already seen. They were teasing how it's going to have a rear-wheel drive mode, and that's one of the modes that turns off stability control completely. So it's essentially a drift mode, much like the new E63S has from Mercedes. And so Very cool that you can switch back and forth between the two. As far as the suspension goes, it's obviously going to be better handling. They say the track is now wider than it was on the previous M5, and it's got beefier suspension setup. The brakes are larger, 15.5-inch steel rotors in the front and 15 inches in the back. You can do carbon ceramics, which actually they say, well, they're optional. They're a little bit larger, but they save 50 pounds of unsprung weight, which will be a difference you can really feel whenever you're driving one of these between the two. So that's very impressive. They also have gone to some lengths to make it a little lighter. So now the front hood and fenders are aluminum, and the roof is carbon fiber now on the M5 too, which is very cool. They're doing 50 first edition cars that are going to be sold exclusively in this frozen dark red metallic color, which is an interesting color, and it looks cool, but the matte finish isn't for everyone. And anyway, these are going to be going on sale spring of 2018, so very cool to see that. And there's a couple other BMW stories this past week. The first is Car and Driver was digging through some leaked documents. The same one actually that was showing the engine specs for the Z4 and Supra that have now been refuted by this other guy. So who knows about any of this stuff? It's all just kind of he said, she said, back and forth. Anyway, so Car and Driver dug through those documents and they're showing an M2 Competition model. Currently we only have the BMW M2, the standard one. Competition model, they offer those for the M3 and M4 and all the way up M5, M6, and just gives you a little bit of a stiffer suspension setup, better for track use, different wheels, a little bit of higher horsepower usually, and that's about it. So they're saying that this is going to be coming to North America in 2018, and so they're saying it could have, since you're like I think 365 horsepower for the standard M2, they're saying it could be like 380 horsepower. It'll be offered according to their document here with manual or dual clutch, they're also saying that there's rumors of a CS and GTS model for the M2 that are both going to get the M4 motor with different levels of horsepower. But this is a lot of special editions for the M2. I mean, not that I'm complaining, but it seems a little unlikely they do all these models. But then again, who knows? So anyway, interesting to see that. Also, this past week, the BMW M8 convertible and the standard 8 Series Coupe were both spied testing with camouflage on them here. But we do see the production headlamps and tail lamps for the 8 Series, and it looks pretty good, just like many other BMWs. And the 8 Series Coupe certainly looks toned down over the concept, but still has similar edgy tail lights, and it does look pretty cool from what we can see there in the spy photos. The M8 obviously looks more aggressive, and we've seen the coupe version of the M8 already several times, and now we see the convertible here, and it does look very good with some cooler wheels as well, and so cool to see that. Another high-performance German vehicle that was spied this past week was the Mercedes-AMG GT Sedan yet again, but this time we can actually see it with less camouflage, especially on the back. It really shows you the shape of this vehicle and how it's going to look. We get a better look at the headlights and taillights, which are very similar to the AMG GT Coupe, especially those taillights look almost identical from what we can see, at least through the camouflage there. But it does have that sloping rear roofline, which really reminds me personally of the Panamera, and I think that's kind of one of the primary competitors for this vehicle. And so I don't think that's a coincidence there. They want to, have a similar type of hatchback design. Anyway, interesting to see that spied running around. Some official cars that were revealed this past week is first, Volkswagen's revealed the 2018 Volkswagen T-Roc. Now, before you get all excited about this thing, in some strange turn of events, Volkswagen is currently only offering this in Europe, which is mind-boggling since us in America are obsessed with crossovers, and the Tiguan now has 3 rows of seating, and there is no smaller SUV offered by Volkswagen, so there's a huge gap, which is the hottest gap in American car buying culture right now of the compact SUV, and Volkswagen has no offering. So this must be coming to the United States, but as of right now, they're saying it's only for Europe. That decision will not last long, I guarantee it. It's based on the same platform as many other Volkswagens that are currently for sale here in the States, so there is no good reason for them not to bring this to the States, and I would bet money that this thing is coming, but for whatever reason, it's currently not. Anyway, moving past that, it does look very good. It looks like a shrunken down version of the Tiguan, a little sportier, as you would expect. And so one of the really cool things is the coloring. They're really getting creative and bolder with the colors here, which I really appreciate. There's some two-tone color combinations for the outside. You can get the roof in white, black, or brown, which isn't the most wide range of colors, but you can combine that with some very bright exterior body colors, and so it can make for some really cool combinations. On the inside, it's also, you can get it very colorful if you want. There's trim pieces are available in blue, orange, yellow, or brown to color coordinate with the outside there, and it's got a pretty nice interior as well. With, you can get the digital Volkswagen digital cockpit that's available in all these 2018 Volkswagens you see, and you can get the nice large touchscreens either in 6.5 inches or 8 inches, and so good to have all of that. Now for Europe, it's going to have 6 different engines available, including several gas and diesel variants, but here in the States, if we were to get it, we would most likely only get the one engine option, which is the most powerful one of 190 horsepower, which again is no hot rod to begin with anyway, so that's probably what we'd get in the States. It's a turbo 4-cylinder, and we would get that with the all-wheel drive and the 7-speed automatic. Europe does have an option for a manual and front-wheel drive, but those two things seem unlikely. Maybe we'll get the front-wheel drive versions, but I highly doubt the manual will be coming. But anyway, so yeah, that is for Europe only currently, but I don't think that's going to last very long. So I would expect to see that maybe next year here for the United States. Another vehicle that was revealed officially this past week that is coming to the United States is Nissan is revealing a few more midnight editions. They did this during the solar eclipse to tag along with all that excitement, and so these midnight editions are just the blacked out versions that Nissan has of several other models already. So now it's applied to the Titan XD, and the Frontier. And apparently Nissan says that these sell twice as fast as non-midnight edition models. So business-wise, it makes sense to just churn out every single model they have with this midnight edition. It just helps them sell better. So can't argue with that. And so anyway, interesting to see that. Cadillac has revealed a special edition this past week to celebrate their 115th birthday with the 2018 Cadillac CTS-V Glacier Metallic Edition. They're only making 115 of them, as you might have guessed, in this Glacier Metallic paint. It also has dark red Brembo calipers and special midnight silver wheels. Otherwise, it's basically a fully loaded CTS-V, so that's why the price tag of this thing is $103,885. Because that's basically what a fully loaded CTS-V comes close to anyway. And, it gives you all the carbon fiber pieces that are the big dollar stuff as options on the CTS-V anyway. So not a huge amount of money, for this special edition like it seems to be. So anyway, cool to see that. Some interesting news this past week that Reuters is reporting, and that is that Hyundai is supposedly planning a pickup truck for the United States. They're also planning 3 new SUVs by 2020 as well. And they say they want to play catch up because they see the car market shrinking and the Sonata and stuff isn't selling as well as they used to, so they're scrambling and they want to hurry up and get these trucks and stuff out as fast as possible. They say the truck will be based on the Santa Cruz concept that we saw at the 2015 Detroit Auto Show, and it only makes sense with how popular trucks are here in the States, and with gas being cheap, go for it. And so as far as these 3 SUVs, not including the Kona, which is coming next year here, they're also saying that they're going to make a new version of the Santa Fe Sport, the midsize SUV they have, and then they're going to do an all-new 3-row SUV in 2019, and that's the one that we spied last week, and you can see that in last week's weekly update, and then also they're going to do a redesigned Tucson for 2020. So that's all their plans there. But very interesting to hear about the truck, and hopefully it looks as cool as the concept. I think that would do pretty well. Other interesting truck news is the new Jeep pickup truck this past week. We finally have an actual name for it. Supposedly, it's claiming, according to the Jeep Scrambler forum, they're claiming it's going to be called the Scrambler, which is a name that goes back to the old Jeep pickups of the I think 70s and 80s. Anyway, but what they're seeing is apparently in the dealer system you can already kind of see like an order type of thing for one of these, and it's showing availability of a folding soft top, a removable hard top with separate panels that in several sections you can take apart, similar to what they're all going to be offering here for the Jeep Wranglers, the standard ones. And also they're saying it's going to be available with a diesel engine. There will probably be gas engines as well, but diesel too. And the forum posted some pictures of the frame and axles as well, which shows the exact dimensions here from these CAD drawings. It's basically going to be, they say, 33 33 inches longer than the Jeep Wrangler Unlimited 4-door, which is already pretty long. So we're talking about a pretty large truck here. And so, yeah, there's no sign of a 2-door version of this pickup just yet. I'm sure if enough people ask for it, they may do something like that. But for right now, it looks like it's gonna be only 4-door truck with that super long bed. So anyway, interesting to see that. Other Jeep news is the Chinese car company Great Wall this past week was talking about how they want to buy Jeep, and they're apparently in talks with Jeep and trying to do this. Jeep has denied that they're in talks with Great Wall and that they're not going to sell Jeep. But there is possibilities that were spoken about in the past from the CEO of FCA saying that they could spin off Jeep as its own separate thing, kind of like how they did for Ferrari and made it its own company, even though it's still within the FCA family in a way. But I don't think they're going to sell Jeep on its own, because Jeep is arguably the most valuable thing that FCA has, and if they get rid of Jeep, then no one's going to want to buy the rest of FCA, which FCA is trying to find a buyer for whatever reason, and that would make it a whole lot less valuable. Plus, it's just, they're so tied together. Every Jeep dealer also sells Dodge and Ram and all that kind of stuff. So splitting it up would just be a huge logistical nightmare, I think, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially since Jeep is only on the upward trend, and I think it's just going to continue to get more and more valuable. And so selling it, I think, would be a mistake by FCA. So we'll have to wait and see, but, take it for what it's worth. But Great Wall supposedly wants to buy it. Other news this past week about Jeep-type stuff is Automotive News is reporting about the next generation Land Rover Defender, which we don't get here in the States, but it's very, very popular overseas. And anyway, they're saying there's going to be a new concept version for the next generation Defender that'll be coming out next year, with a production version coming in 2019. They say it's going to be offered in all global markets, which would include us here in the United States. And they don't know yet if it's going to be unibody or body on frame, as far as how hardcore they're going to make the next Defender. But, with how popular the Jeep and stuff is, the Wranglers and all that, I could see them doing an actual body on frame thing still, and it's selling very well and be very cool. But we'll have to wait and see what they end up doing. But anyway, interesting to see that. A couple other Volkswagen stories. The first one is the Supercars from EU YouTube channel has been spying the Volkswagen Tiguan R running around the Nürburgring. And so the R, now there was an R line already, the Tiguan that's available, but this seems like an actual R. The reason being is you can clearly hear the sound of an Audi 5-cylinder turbo engine running around. It's the same motor from the TTRS and RS3 that sounds like a baby Lamborghini Gallardo engine. Essentially, it sounds wonderful, and they're putting that thing in the Tiguan, which this sounds amazing. Autocar has expanded more on this, and they're reporting that it'll be a detuned version, so it's not going to have the same 395 horsepower as the Audis, the TTRS and RS3. But they're saying it's going to be closer to the Golf R's 306 horsepower. They're saying maybe like 325, something like that. So heavily detuned over the Audi models, for the Volkswagen here. They're saying that the Tiguan R should debut next year, probably at the Geneva Motor Show next, late winter, early spring. Who knows if we're going to get it in America? A lot of the awesome Volkswagens we never get here in the States. So we'll have to wait and see if we get, with how hot the crossover segment is, it would make sense, or even put this motor in the new T-Roc, and then you really have something epic there, and bring that to the States. We'll have to wait and see, but anyway, interesting to see that someone is getting that model, and they're working on it, and it's going to be awesome, whoever gets to drive it. The other Volkswagen story that is very awesome, and is coming to the United States, is Volkswagen at Pebble Beach this past week officially announced that the Volkswagen Buzz electric microbus that was debuted at the Detroit Auto Show this past winter, that is actually going to be produced. They're going to launch it in 2022, and we are getting it in North America. It's also going to be coming to Europe and China. They say it's going to be available in passenger models and cargo van models as well, much like the original microbus. And it's going to be all electric, of course, based on the ID platform here that is going to be underpinning a crossover, a hatchback, and many other models, I'm sure. So it's going to have the same long wheelbase, higher seating position, and it's going to have available all-wheel drive, which is going to be great, for those in snowy areas as well. So it's not just for Californians and people in nice areas. And so that is a huge deal. They're actually finally bringing it back, because there have been rumors about these microbus things for years, decades, really. That it's going to be coming back, and it never does. So this is like monumental and going to be really cool. And hopefully they offer it with fun color combinations, like the concept, and really make it very cool and give it some retro vibes and stuff, that would be awesome. So very sweet to hear that. A couple other cars that debuted at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance this past week that I didn't cover in last week's video. I did cover some in last week's video, but a lot of them hadn't been revealed yet. Now we have some more of them here. And the first is the Vision Mercedes-Maybach 6 Cabriolet. And it's basically, last year you might remember there was one of these things as well. It was just a hardtop that was red. Now it's just a convertible and it's navy blue. That's basically the only changes. It still is awesome though. It's a 19-foot long, ultra luxurious convertible here now. It has a 750 horsepower electric motor, but it is just a concept. It would be cool if they would make it, you know, even as just a limited run thing or something. But who knows? I think if they made something that looked like that though, even just put a normal engine in it and maybe tone down the length a little bit, I still think it would sell like hotcakes to those very wealthy people that would love to flaunt their wealth. That would sell very well, but for right now, it's only a concept. And a more actually production ready thing that was revealed was Pagani has shown off the Zonda HP Barchetta, which is basically yet another variant of the Zonda. I'm hoping it's the last one. I mean, the Zondas are amazing, and the more of them, the better, but now the Huayra's been out for many years now as well. I think almost 5 years at this point, and the Zondas should have, I mean, was technically supposed to be dead once the Huayra came in, but they're still doing the Zondas. Clearly, Horacio Pagani still loves them, and so do customers, but hey, if people still love them and keep buying them, keep building them. Why not? Anyway, this one, they're only building 3 of these. It's actually just to commemorate Horacio Pagani's 60th birthday, and so the first car is actually his. He's keeping for his own collection, and then the other 2 are going to be built for customers, and the differences are basically it's got that cropped windshield you can see, carbon titanium components that are actually borrowed from the Huayra, along with the same seats as the Huayra that are done up in this special unique leather and tartan plaid kind of looking material that is very cool. And the one interesting thing is the wheels on the left are silver, but the ones on the right are blue. It's an interesting design choice there. But it comes with a 6-speed manual transmission and that glorious AMG V12 engine, which is still one of the best sounding motors ever made. So very awesome to see that. Last week, I showed the teaser for the Kode Zero, which is this Japanese designer who was making this new supercar, and he's done one in the past. Anyway, we've now more pictures and details about the Kode Zero, and it's basically just a rebodied Lamborghini Aventador. So the interior, the engine, all that are unchanged, no faster, anything like that as far as the specifications go. Same interior, just with a few new trim pieces. But the body looks a lot different, of course, and it's completely carbon fiber, so it weighs 600 pounds less than an Aventador. So, as fast as an Aventador is, take 600 pounds out of that, and you are going to have a mind-blowing vehicle performance-wise as well. So anyway, so they're saying a curb weight of only 3,417 pounds with 700 horsepower in the Aventador. It's crazy. But here's some more mind-blowing facts. Only 5 of them are going to be built. They're going to be $1.5 million each, and that's on top of supplying your own Aventador. So you give him your own Aventador, and then give him an extra $1.5 million to get one of these vehicles. So very interesting to see that, and it's going to be cool for those 5 people. And in some news that kind of makes sense and kind of doesn't make sense, Audi this past week announced that they're going to be changing their naming structure, which is always fun when people change naming structures to make things even more confusing. So for the 2018 model year, they want to be more like Mercedes in a way, because they're adding numerical designations to the backs of their models. So let me break this down. They haven't confirmed it first for America yet, although it sounds like it's going to be a global rollout, so I'm sure it is going to be coming to America here, maybe the following year or something, but we'll probably get it for the 2018 model year. Anyway, so the model names are going to stay the same, so A4, A5, all that kind of stuff is going to stay the same, but the engine designations are going to be gone, and instead they're going to have just numerical designations. So the numbering starts at 30 for the lowest one, and that's for engines making between 110 and 131 horsepower. They're going to have, for example, 45 designated cars, and those are going to make somewhere between 230 and 252 horsepower. There's going to be a 55 model, which is the picture that we got here, and then who knows what the horsepower is for that one, they didn't say. And then the top of the range, they're going to have a 70, which is going to be for cars making over 544 horsepower. And they just are saying that, you know, with engine displacement becoming less and less relevant with electric cars that don't have displacement and stuff, they can't keep doing, you know, whatever the displacement is like they used to do, which makes sense. And I can understand that, you know, now these new numbers are going to work with electric vehicles. But still, you know, just more numbers, it's just gets more and more confusing, I think, a little bit as well. But let me know what you think about that in the comments below. And finally, the last story this week is Toyota has patented a system to make A-pillars semi-transparent. We just have an image of what they're kind of going for there. And basically, it's a system they developed that uses mirrors somehow to make it appear transparent. So I don't know how. Maybe it's kind of similar to like a night mode on your rearview mirror when you flick it up, and you know, it kind of makes it. I don't know if it's something like that or how they're managing this with mirrors, because Jaguar has developed a system they patented, I think, late last year or early this year, that had just basically screens for A-pillars and little cameras that kind of, you know, made it so that it appeared invisible for your A-pillar. And you know, this is all just in the idea of safety and wanting to be able to have better visibility, which is good with, you know, A-pillars getting thicker and thicker, you know, to improve crash testing and stuff. But I'm not sure how it's going to work with mirrors, but a very interesting idea, and we'll have to see how Toyota actually makes it come to fruition, if they make it come to fruition. But anyway, interesting to see that nonetheless. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know all your thoughts about everything in the comments below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.